The Wrong Man is the true story of Manny Balistrero, directed by Alfred Hitchcock and starring Henry Fonda. It's the latest in our 50s Hitchcock arc here on the Golden Hour Film Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Golden Hour Film Podcast. I am here with my co-host, not guest host, Harry Bailey. How are you, Harry?
I am very good. I don't want to date this episode too much based on when we actually recorded it, but for those of you who follow us on Instagram, you might notice that we follow two different Premier League teams on our Instagram account. One of them's Arsenal and one of them's Bournemouth. And if you can tell by my cap, I'm a happy man. But we don't have the context of the rest of the season behind us. I'm sure when this episode comes out, one of us might be a little bit happier than the other. Which one of us that'll be, though, I have no idea. But besides that, yeah, I'm pretty good. Pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, apart from what you just mentioned, I'm okay. It's been a little while since we recorded. Actually, it's been a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So obviously at the end of this episode, we'll get into what we watched lately. I think we've both watched a fair bit, so yeah, check that out at the end. But for now, obviously, we're stuck in the kind of Hitchcock 50s road, right down that road. And it is The Wrong Man, and it's a true story, like I said, featuring the true story of a guy called Manny Balistrero, who was sentenced, not sentenced, he was arrested and, kind of charged with, what was he charged with?
He was charged with bank robbery. Well, not bank robbery, but what would you call a string of robberies? I don't know. He was arrested for a string of robberies, I guess. Yeah. The technical term isn't coming to me, I'm afraid.
Yeah. God, for some reason, my mind went to for murder, and I knew it wasn't murder, so I just my completely blank there. But obviously, this is literally called The Wrong Man, so this is Hitchcock very much grappling with that pesky notion of being the wrong man, accused of something you didn't commit. And I think it's quite interesting, this movie, because, like I said, it is a true story, to reiterate once again. And you can kind of tell that Hitchcock has certain tensions that pop up. Like he wants to kind of be a bit flamboyant and showcase a bit of a flair, as he obviously has a tendency to do in these kinds of stories. But I think because it's pretty recent, this only happened a few years previous to this movie being made, obviously, and it affected obviously Manny Balistrero and his kids and his wife especially, and so he probably did something to upset them. So it's interesting to kind of examine the movie when it comes to, I guess, true crime stories nowadays. There is that age-old question of, you don't want to be exploitative, and it's interesting to kind of think about Hitchcock having to grapple with that question himself. You had seen this before, if I'm not mistaken, Harry?
I had, yeah. I've seen this once before.
Yeah, same as myself. And obviously, we might as well, on that note, get into some spoiler-free thoughts. So,
yeah, I'm gonna take off a few buzzwords before we get into our spoiler-filled review. This is a very Kafka-esque film. It feels very Kafka in that it kind of reminds me of The Trial, but it's less obscure and less mental in comparison to The Trial with Anthony Perkins. But it's not too far off. It's a very nice looking film in regards to the cinematography. The black and white cinematography is gorgeous. It's so crisp. It's like the blacks and the whites. I know this might not make sense to people who are really into their older films, but if you're into your older films, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The blacks are so dark and the whites are so bright in this film. There's a real kind of contrast that you don't really see in a lot of films. It's clear that, as Shane said, there's a bit of a flair going on from Hitchcock here with his direction. There's a couple of shots in particular that we'll get into that really stand out. Ultimately, it is Henry Fonda's first time on the podcast in forever. genuinely, is it his first time since 12 Angry Men? I think so. That is insane. He's good in this. Vera Miles is in this film. I think she's very good in this film too. This film's also the feature film debut of a popular actor. Shane, do you know who that is?
Ooh. I don't, not off the top of my head.
Harry Dean Stanton plays a corrections officer in this film.
Does he?
He does. Yeah, it's his feature film debut. I think he's the receptionist or whatever you'd call him, like the one at the desk as he's brought in. Yeah, it's a good Hitchcock film. We'll talk about it in the spoiler-filled review. Bernard Herrmann's score is quite good, it has to be said. It reminds me a lot of another Hitchcock film that we've covered on the podcast with regards to like my feelings towards it. But again, I don't want to give away too much in the spoiler-free review section. I'll tell you all about that in just a moment. So for now, I'll just let you know that I think it's a good film. Hitchcock definitely went for it direction-wise, and just visually, it's a very striking film. Good score. Henry Fonda's good. Vera Miles is good. I think you all know where I'm going with this. Yeah, it's a good film. What about you, Shay?
Yeah, I remember enjoying it on the first watch. My thoughts at the time were that the first half was stronger than the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we'll get on to whether that's still my thoughts. I do think that Henry Fonda is kind of similar to Jimmy Stewart in that he's just such a naturally easy to root for presence. On top of the fact that he is this character, Manny, who is going through something that obviously kind of a nightmare scenario where it feels like the entire justice system is wrapping itself around his neck like a coil and kind of strangling him, and it obviously has a greatly kind of awful effect as well on his wife in particular, who goes through some obviously difficult mental health challenges. So yeah, I think I agree with you that it's good. I think obviously we'll get on to some spoiler filled thoughts, I should say, in a while. I think it's good, but like I said at the top, I think it's interesting when it comes to like, I think he wants to go further, Hitchcock, but he doesn't want to kind of annoy or kind of disrespect the Balestreros, who obviously went through this ordeal, and so you kind of have an interesting tension that kind of runs through, especially the second half of the film, I think. I should say as well, obviously, that if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening on Spotify, do give us a 5-star review and a like. Goes a long way. On that note, The Wrong Man, Harry, what's it all about?
Yeah, so as you said, it follows Manny Balestrero. So the case is pretty interesting. Worth noting off the top, a really interesting opening shot where Hitchcock, kind of similar to his TV show, or TV shows I should say, comes out and addresses the audience and basically says, this is Hitchcock doing a real life film covering a real life story, and that sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. And that kind of is what carries the film, is this idea, not that, where Shane probably maybe alluded to in the spoiler-free one, in a lot of films, you'd maybe see Manny's character go down a dark path or have a dark edge to him or whatever. He's kind of generally positive in this film, where, like, if that's what happened in real life, then that's what happened in real life. But the caveat to that, and what makes it a good film, is that there's some absolutely mental coincidences that happen that basically ruin this man's life for a period of time. And yeah, the case is quite simple. He is accused after going into the bank one day to take out his wife's policy because she has problems with her wisdom tooth. He is accused of being a guy who stuck up that bank not long ago. So the detectives basically take him around all these other places that this person, whether it be Manny or not, is another story. Although I think we've definitely said 40 times already that he didn't do it. he's basically taken around all of these different shops and liquor stores and whatever where this person held them up. And in a bit of a sort of police negligence, is made to do this sort of drill where he has to walk in, turn and look at the cashier and walk back out again, where if this guy does bear any sort of resemblance to the guy who did it, it is genuinely impossible to do that drill without looking suspicious, I feel. Which is why these people behind the counter then come to the conclusion that, yeah, he must be the stick-up guy. And he's thrown in prison. They kind of get a motive out of him that he was trying to take out money for his wife's wisdom tooth. They had a really expensive vacation that he had to take a loan out for. They're not flush with cash, so he did all these stick-ups for the money. He also, as I said, the truth being stranger than fiction, he also writes the note that the stick-up guy wrote, and the guys get him to write it. And again, there's some similarities to the guy's handwriting, but they make him do it a second time. And unfortunately for Manny, the second time, he makes a spelling mistake, and it is the exact spelling mistake that the accused person made on their own card. So that basically does him. He's put in a cell, and his family are trying to figure out where he is because he doesn't even get to tell them where he is. And yeah, it's a wrong man film. We know it from the title. He is the wrong man. So where this film goes, well, who knows? But worth mentioning as well, Vera Miles plays his wife. She's very good in this. We'll talk about her performance a bit later on because I feel like her performance kind of comes into its own in the second half of the film. But this film also has Esther Minciotti in it, who's just lovely. Just don't know what she was like as a person, but I loved her in Marty, and she's almost the exact same character in this. She's just someone's ma, and she just seems lovely.
Yeah, very much so. Obviously, the movie is kind of grappling with things like, witness identification and kind of how unreliable at times that witness ID can be, and confirmation bias. Like you said, if you're being asked leading questions by a detective, and they're kind of asking you in such a way that makes it seem like the person they're pointing out is suspicious, you can't really blame them too much if their mind just kind of goes to, well, that person must be, the criminal here, and so obviously confirmation bias and all that stuff. I think, as you said, Vera Miles is good in this, and it's interesting that after obviously Grace Kelly left Hollywood and left acting, he initially kind of zeroed in on Vera Miles as his next kind of big kind of project, his next Hitchcock blonde, as it were. This was kind of intended to be the start of that. She was also meant to be in the episode we're covering next week, Vertigo, but she ended up getting pregnant before that. So, he obviously ended up going with Kim Novak, and obviously we'll get into that next week. But obviously she was obviously in Psycho, Vera Miles, later, a couple of years later as well. So it was very much meant to be it was very much meant to be, Vera Miles was meant to be like Hitchcock's next big project, and this was obviously the start of that. And it is a good performance, like you said, especially in the second half of the movie. And at this point in the narrative, she and obviously Manny's mom and his brother, or his brother-in-law, are kind of all over the place. They it's interesting, they told Manny that they've already been told, the family, where he is, but actually that's not true. Mm-hmm. So like hours and hours and hours go on, and they have no idea where he is.
They think he was in an accident.
Yeah, they think something bad. They're thinking about going to the local hospitals. They're obviously kind of, it's not a great situation. And then once they finally find out where he is and why, obviously, it's a bad situation. And then fast forward to the kind of hearing, and his bail is set at $7,500, which again obviously isn't anywhere near what they actually have. It's a lot more than
obviously than adjust that for inflation in your heads at home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're talking tens of thousands for sure. And so obviously, the family don't have that to hand, so it's looking like Manny is going to have several weeks, well, certainly an indefinite period in in jail behind bars, and that scene where he's kind of getting booked into prison is Henry Fonda. He's very, like I said, he's very likable, as a screen presence anyway. But then you put him in a situation like this, kind of where it's kind of mopey dog presence, and yeah, it definitely pulls on the heartstrings. Luckily, however, he manages to get out on bail because some family friends managed to kind of rustle up the money and managed to kind of just about pay off the bail for him. So at the very least, before trial, he's now going to have the opportunity to kind of follow up some leads and prove that he wasn't actually in the banks at the times that they are kind of pinning this on him, and try and get some kind of alibis and some evidence to support his attestation that he isn't responsible for this.
Yeah, I think, except for the actual ending itself, I definitely agree that the first half is the stronger half of this film. And I think that really is shown in the scene where Manny is put into a cell and he goes in, he turns, he looks down the camera, and then the camera pulls out and we see that the door's been slammed shut and the sort of eye rectangle thing that you slide across to look in and out of the cell is open, and he comes out and he stares through it. That for me is by far the most memorable shot in the film. And then there's other kind of scenes and shots of him in the cell where he's clearly having like a panic attack, and it's shot really, really interestingly. You can tell Hitchcock was a bit more experimental with it. Worth noting as well, this is Henry Fonda's only collaboration with Hitchcock, and it is also not the first film about the Manny Balistrero case. There was at least one film made before it from 1954, and then there's been other films since. But yeah, I think when they go around kind of trying to tie up ends, the film definitely comes far more about Rose Balistrero, the wife, and I think Vera Mills is very good. But I would agree that it's the weaker half of the film, bar the actual ending itself, which I do quite like. But I do think Vera Miles is very good in that second half, where, as you kind of alluded to, she, after, again, the truth is stranger than fiction, after they realised that there was a card game that can basically clear Manny, and of the three people, they go to the first guy, they go to the place where they had the card game, and they vaguely remember the people, and they come up with the three names. Then they go to the first person, and he's dead. And then they go to the second person, and he's dead. At that point, Rose just kind of snaps, and it's all hopeless. And she realizes that the more and more she cares about this, the less that things seem to work out in their favor. And yeah, her performance for the rest of the film is brilliant, where she's got a real vacant expression when they go back to the lawyer, and he picks up on it. And then when they get home after the lawyer, she strikes him with, I think, like a metal mirror which draws blood. Probably the controversial, because it's probably for most people the most memorable shot in the film, but it's kind of goofy to me, is the shot where she strikes him in the head with the mirror, and then there's like a hard cut to a mirror cracking with Henry Fonda looking down it. It was a bit goofy for me. Like, it was a bit ham-fisted. Like, again, alluding to next week, considering how incredible some of the visuals are in that film, juxtaposing that with like that shot is just, it's kind of night and day. But yeah, when this mirror cracks after being smacked over the head of Manny, Rose realizes, oh, I do need help. And then she is brought to an institution that, I mean, if they thought they couldn't pay for the lawyer, how on earth they're going to pay for that, I don't know. And unfortunately, the real life story is honestly kind of bleaker than the film would let it on to be. It was like, the bills were like absurdly high, and I know Manny wanted, I think, $500,000 in what's the word? Were they
compensation?
Yeah, in compensation, and instead of 500,000, he got like a tiny fraction of that. Yeah, he wanted 500,000, and he was paid a settlement of $7,000. He earned like over 3 times that from the rights to this film, but I think he ended up having to use the money from the movie to pay off her bills for this institution, because she was there for a lot longer. So yeah, it's very bleak and a very clear example of the system really fucking some people over.
Absolutely. And yeah, Manny has this to deal with now as well on top of his trial. And obviously we've kind of touched upon a few Hitchcock trials now at this point. Some of them have been better than others, I think it's fair to say. I think this is like on the upper end of that for sure. I think it shows the kind of helplessness that you can
there's
have.
There's a real sense of paranoia there.
Yeah, for sure. And like that he really can't affect the outcome one way or another. It becomes pretty clear, like, because I think Rose had said to him, like, it's rigged kind of against you, essentially. Like, they've already made up their mind, and there's like, it's kind of already done, and that's obviously a big reason why she kind of obviously why she becomes a lot sicker than she actually obviously was previously. But then when the trial starts, you just get evidence after evidence, and it's looking like things are just really not going Manny's way, and his lawyer is trying to kind of keep him in good spirits, but like barely a shred of evidence goes by that's actually in support of Manny. Mm-hmm. To the point where after kind of another kind of piece of evidence in favour of, or sorry, against Manny, one of the jurors just has an outburst where he says, like, do we really have to listen to all this? Effectively meaning, look, we all know what way we're going to go. Mm-hmm. Like, so obviously that's prejudice in the trial. So unfortunately for Manny and his lawyer, a mistrial is declared, and his lawyer says, look, we're just going to have to start the whole thing over again. And so yeah, we're back to square one essentially for Manny. Like, at the very least, he was thinking that maybe we'd have a conclusion one way or the other pretty soon, but now that's not even going to be the case. And so yeah, poor Manny is going through the ringer now at this point.
And then, yeah, he goes home to his lovely, lovely ma, who says, Manny, have you tried praying? And he said, yes, I have prayed. I prayed for luck. And she said, no, don't pray for that. Pray for strength. So he goes up to his room that night and he says a prayer. And who would have thunk it? And if it's not the shot of him looking through the door, it's this shot. One of the best shots of the whole film, where that night we see the real hold-up guy, and he walks up to the camera, and it's faded into the shot of Manny looking down the camera praying. It fades into the hold-up guy, so you can kind of see the resemblance in their bone structure and stuff. And then the hold-up guy goes in, fails to hold up a liquor store, gets brought in, is arrested. Manny goes, he's brought down to the police station, and as he's brought in, he hears the women from the bank who initially kind of got him into this whole misunderstanding through thinking that he was the guy. And he hears them saying, yes, that's the guy. Then they come out and they obviously make eye contact with Manny and are brought to the harsh reality of their mistake. And those women go running out of the room. And Manny kind of gets his moment with the guy where he's like, do you realise what you've done to my wife? And then, yeah, the ending is a real gut punch. He then goes to his wife, Rose, and he goes, Rose, they got him, they got the guy. And then you hear a nurse in the background say, Rose, it's Manny. And it's like, oh, God. And yeah, the film kind of ends with the title card saying that she was completely cured after 2 years. That was one, not true.
Which is an interesting concept about like mental health.
Yeah,
that you can be just cured.
Like, how do you be cured of something like this? That's just the 50s for you. But yeah, she also very much dealt with this for the rest of her life and passed away like 25 years after, whereas Manny went on to live a much longer life. Very bleak, harsh reality of this film is that it is, of course, based on a true story of a guy getting truly fucked over by the system. Look, it's a good Hitchcock film. I think it's kind of mid-tier Hitchcock. It reminds me a lot of... Actually, Shane, have a guess. What film do you reckon this reminds me of?
A Hitchcock film as well.
Yeah, we've covered it.
Okay.
Just in terms of its general quality.
Is it from the 50s?
Nah.
No, 40s. Maybe Spellbound?
That is exactly the film, yes. For me, this is like... It's almost an identical film when it comes to quality with Spellbound. I feel like a lot of the people who love Spellbound love this film too.
Yeah.
And I like Spellbound. It's definitely not one of my favourite Hitchcock films, and neither is this. Both films have good lead performances from both the male and female actors. They're both directed well. They both have moments of great flair, but they both have good scores. But overall, and obviously this one's got the kind of fact that it's based on a true story, it does leave a little bit to desire for me. I just think that the second half of this film does kind of slow it down a bit, and I also think that the aftermath could have been dealt with more. Obviously it's a recent event, but like, what did those 2 years look like? I would have rathered an extra 10 minutes dedicated to that, shy of 10 minutes off the last half of the movie, and get rid of the title card personally. It's definitely mid-tier Hitchcock. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Like, I do like this film. I do think it's good. But yeah, it's not Fonda's best performance. I think he's good in it, but like, obviously he's the same guy who was in 12 Angry Men, so like his best performance is better than most actors ever. By comparison, it's not his best. I think Vera Miles is very good in this. Is one of her better performances, I would say. And overall, I would recommend it, but I wouldn't go in expecting it to be like the best Hitchcock film we've ever seen, unless you really like Spellbound. In which case, if you really like Spellbound, absolutely watch this, because I think you will very much enjoy this. What about you, Shane?
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said there. Definitely mid-tier Hitchcock. Definitely worth a watch for if you're a Hitchcock fan. I think there's enough here, and the fact that it's a true story obviously separates it among most Hitchcock movies. And you can tell he really wants to say something about the American justice system, but whether he's actually the right man to tell that story, I think he wants to be a bit more like he wants to kind of go off the rails in a good way, a little bit more than he. But he keeps getting pulled back by like, oh shit, this is a true story. I can't like go too far. So like you'll see some of these pretty cool shots, and then it's like he has to rein himself in almost. Henry Fonda's good, Vera Miles is good. I think it is just when it comes to these kind of movies, it is just a kind of broad strokes example of how cruel the justice system can be if it works against you. And like, there's been loads of this kind of movie made before and since, and when they're done well, they're always watchable, and this is certainly in that category. I went 3 out of 5 stars. Definitely middle tier Hitchcock, but it's definitely better than some of the poor efforts we covered on the podcast alone. And that's The Wrong Man from Alfred Hitchcock. Obviously, there are 2 more movies from Alfred Hitchcock, which we'll be covering later in the month. But for now, actually not later in the month, just
next week.
Next week and the week after. But for now, we're going to get into what we've watched lately, and might as well start us off, Harry. What have you watched lately?
Yeah, of course. So I just need to make sure. I need to go back to what did I talk about last? Yes. Wow, I've watched a real eclectic mix of films. So first and foremost, I watched Chungking Express from Wong Kar-wai. gorgeous film. It's kind of it's a film where you could probably like describe the narrative in like 2 sentences, because it's not necessarily about the narrative. It's kind of more so about the characters and what they feel and how they feel. It also, as an Irish person, love it because it's got multiple cranberries, needle drops. So yeah, won't care why, mama taste. And yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved this film. I do wish we spent a little bit more time with the first 2 people, though. I get it. It's kind of like we get 1 act with the first couple, air quotes, and then 2 acts with the second couple, air quotes. But that first couple I would have liked to have spent more time with too. I then watched The Waterboy. It's good crack, like it's just a bit of fun. Yeah, you could definitely make a case against it, but I'm not going to be that person. I enjoy The Waterboy. Shout out Kathy Bates. Just love her and everything. I then watched Elephant. That's not a controversial film at all. It's one of them films on, if you look on Letterboxd, like I follow people, and in like the small tab where you can see a couple of people who you follow, we've got 1s and 5s there. Like it's a very controversial film. Obviously based on Columbine. I think its non-linear storytelling is an interesting choice from Gus Van Sant. I think it works because you know early on how the film is going to go, and then you're basically left with that feeling of dread for the rest of the film because it's non-linear. And yeah, I'm not going to talk about Elephant too much on an episode of the podcast where we are talking about The Wrong Man. I think Elephant is a film that should, if anything, be discussed in like a big open room with like 8 different people all kind of feeding into it, because it is there's a lot to unpack with that film. I then watched the 2019 documentary Apollo 11. Some gorgeous shots in this from obviously the NASA documentary they were going to make about the moon landing, that they never ended up getting around to making. So like seeing a 4K restoration of those shots is mind-blowing. Yeah, it's kind of a bare bones documentary in that it is entirely archival footage. There's no narration or title cards or anything. It is just about Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and of course Michael Collins, the third guy, going into space and then, the moon landing and then coming home, which is a period in history I'm genuinely very fascinated by. I think 60s America is a really interesting place in history. So yeah, I really enjoyed this documentary a lot. After that, I watched Hard Boiled, and I can genuinely say that, bar the John Wick films, I don't think America have put out an action film as good as Hard Boiled since the 90s. It is in contention for the greatest action film ever made. Like, what is there to say about Hard Boiled that hasn't already been said? John Woo at the absolute peak of his powers, Chow Yun-fat at the peak of his powers, Tony Leung at the peak of his powers. Tony Leung, though, like, shout out to him because he obviously has crazy range from like Wong Kar-wai dramas about loneliness to films where 2 cops basically gun fu their way through the most insane set pieces. The stunt work in this is incredible. The action is incredible. Agent Tequila, what a character. Just Hard Boiled, strong contender for the greatest action movie ever made. Then I watched The Last Temptation of Christ with Martin Scorsese, Willem Dafoe. I think the Last Temptation itself is definitely the best part of the film. I think it's very good. It's not my favourite Scorsese film, but I think it's very good. Willem Dafoe is obviously amazing. And then, yeah, like Harvey Keitel as Judas is one of the most one of the most clowned performances ever. I didn't think he was that bad. Like, he won the Razzie for worst performance of the year. I think there's a certain charm about Judas coming into Jesus being like, "How you doing?" Like, there's a charm to it. Yeah, Last Temptation of Christ. For me, it's all about that final act, which is just fantastic, and the screenplay as well is brilliant. I then, would you believe, for the first time in my life, watched Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh, it's so good.
Unbelievable film. It's one of them films that Jaws was a similar one until I watched it for the first time, that was years ago. It's one of them films that I've seen, it's been on the TV genuinely like 8 times in my life, but it's been on Sky, and then I'm like, oh fuck, I wish I caught the beginning of that.
Yeah.
And then I'll watch a scene and then move on. I finally sat down and just watched it, and yeah, I can't believe the Kieran Culkin hype train only really began in the last sort of 10 years, because in 2010 he was doing this. He is so good in it. It's one of my favourite scene breakdowns is the shot where Scott is there and then Kieran Culkin goes down to the door, opens the door, comes across, and then you just see him jump out the window behind him.
Yeah.
The scene breakdown for that is brilliant, but yeah, fantastic film, so enjoyable. I then watched Project A, which is of all that's left of Jackie Chan's filmography that I haven't seen, was definitely one of the bigger ones. It's great crack. He gets to have his safety last moment where he's hanging from a church or from a giant clock tower. It's got pirates. It's got him having a massive bar fight. It's Jackie Chan in a nutshell. It's kind of all. It's the lads. It's Jackie Chan. Obviously, it's Sammo Hung, who just plays a real Sammo Hung character. Like, he's just an absolute little shit who, by the end, is like, fine, okay, I will be a good guy. You got Yuan Biao, who definitely has his core fan base. Is like, yeah, Sammo Hung and Jackie Chan get all their credit, but Yuan Biao was like the third guy. He was also class, and yeah, he's very good in this. And then, just for me, shout out to Mars, who's just like one of Jackie Chan's mates, who's like got such a recognizable face. His character in this is literally called Big Mouth. But he's like in every Jackie Chan film, and you just recognize him and you're like, Mars. And he's normally a henchman who just like dies or gets his ass beat. But in this film, it's the 3 lads and Mars in the end. Like the 4 of them. And I was just like, oh my god. It's like in wrestling where it's the Royal Rumble, and in the final 4 it's like your favorite jobber's there too. It's just like, oh my god, he's there. He doesn't do an awful lot, but like he gets to be the 4th best hero in this film, which is some promotion for our boy Mars. I then watched a film for a list that I've put out for the 12 Jimmy Stewart films you should see. That is out by now. I also said on that video that if it gets 30 likes, I will do a 12 more Jimmy Stewart films you should all see. But I watched Come Live With Me, which is a really, really great film directed by Clarence Brown, where Jimmy Stewart plays this writer, and basically a woman from Hungary is to be deported because she's there illegally. She can't marry the person she loves because the person she loves is actually married and they are an affair. So she finds Jimmy Stewart's character, who's this lowly, broke writer who's very cynical and just accepts it because he needs the cash. And then over time realizes that he actually might have a bit of an affinity for the woman who he's married to. Hedy Lamarr is brilliant in it, and the last act of it is up there for like some of the best classic Hollywood romance stuff you'll ever see. The final act is just amazing. And then last but certainly not least, I watched The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. That film fucking rips. Oh my god, I loved that film so much. Ken Watanabe is so good in this film. I don't care if people find this film corny. I am one of those guys who's just obsessed with Japan. I don't know how I hadn't seen this before. This is so class. Edward Zwick, It's probably his magnum opus. Though I do think that Blood Diamond is also very good.
Yeah, it's good.
I think this is better. I'm currently actually listening to the Rest is History's kind of coverage of the samurai in Japan. So I just stuck this on. It's got a great cast. Timothy Spall's in there. Hiroyuki Sanada's in there. He plays a badass in this, and he reminds me of Kyuzo from Seven Samurai. He's just a guy who just like, you put him in a room with like 30 people. If you just give him a sword, he walks out untouched. Billy Connolly's in it for a bit. He's great crack. And Tony Goldwyn is an absolute douchebag in this film, and he plays the douchebag quite well. But yeah, this is all about, white boy goes to Japan, learns about the culture, and then realizes that they have something figured out over there that we don't. But obviously it's kind of like late 1800s, so it's like as the samurai are becoming illegal and Japan's becoming westernized, and it kind of tackles that whole culture clash, but from the perspective of a Westerner who's been taken hostage by the samurai. So it's brilliant. Just class, just absolute. I'll hold my hands up. It's an absolute film, but like it fucking rips. It is so good. What about you, Shane?
Yeah, so I rewatched The Death of Stalin. Very, very funny movie.
Yeah, nice.
Then rewatched Easy A, also a very, very funny movie. I then watched Mike and Nick and Alice, which is a new film on Disney Plus. So it's on streaming right now. It's starring Vince Vaughn, Isaac Gonzalez, and James Marsden. It's kind of an interesting time machine. So it's like a time machine conceit to this, and it's like they have to kind of work with a past, like a kind of a past version of themselves that have travelled into the future, and then kind of some weird shenanigans go on. They're all gangsters, at least, and she's a gangster's wife. So I enjoyed this at the start, and I think it diminishes in quality by the time it gets to the end. I think it kind of gets less and less fresh, I guess, in its ideas by the end. It starts to kind of be a bit imitative. So that's a bit of a shame. The drama is a really, really good movie from Christopher Borgli, starring Robert Pattinson and Zendaya. So there is a couple who are about to get married, and kind of the week of the wedding, a few days before the wedding, they're out to dinner with their friends, and they're all kind of saying something that they haven't told anyone before, like kind of something really kind of embarrassing or awful that they've done in the past, and they all kind of share it, and it gets to one of the characters, and this character reveals something mental, absolutely wild. And yeah, then just like one of them said they are Robert Pattinson, and then it's can the other person kind of forgive or live with this person when they've done something or thought about doing something absolutely crazy. I'm not going to give too much away about it, but it's definitely it's definitely an American movie, and you'll know what I mean by that when you actually see the movie. Definitely controversial, like in some quarters, in terms of some of the subject matter, but I think it's dealing with it in a kind of an honest and upfront way, and I think I enjoyed it for sure. I then watched a trilogy that I've been meaning to watch for many, many years, the Dollars trilogy. So, A Fistful of Dollars, really, really good movie. Ennio Morricone's score, by the way, throughout these three movies is insane. Everyone knows.
So good.
Yeah, he's a legend. Like, everyone knows the kind of the main theme that kind of runs throughout the whole three movies. But just in general,
my mate actually saw him live in concert.
Oh, he'd be incredible in concert.
Yeah,
absolutely legend. Like, everyone knows the earworm that is the main theme. But just the score in general throughout the three movies are incredible, honestly. It's like as great as Sergio Leone's direction is, and like some of them wide shots are like epic. And Clint Eastwood's obviously character is like absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I think the score does a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to these movies. It makes it feel so epic. Yes, Fistful of Dollars is great. For a Few Dollars More is great, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is great. I think if I had to pick one of the three that I prefer, I'd probably say For a Few Dollars More, which is the second one. I know, obviously, like they're all great, but I think that one's like it's kind of a smaller movie in focus. But I think Lee Van Cleef's performance in that is brilliant, and I think Clint Eastwood's performance in it is brilliant. Obviously, Lee Van Cleef and Clint Eastwood are both in the third movie as well, which they're both great in that as well. I think the fact that it's kind of a smaller movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, is not what I expected. Actually, it's definitely more. It's going for more of an epic feel than the other two. I think it's definitely going for, because it's set during the Confederacy, and so it's like the characters are kind of touching, they're kind of flirting with this kind of everything going on in the American Civil War as well at the time. So they're kind of floating in and out of that storyline, and it's definitely like it's also about an hour longer than I think either the other two movies, which I've no issue with, by the way. But I do think there's just a focus to the other two that they're all great, they're all absolutely great, and definitely worth a watch. I would say For a Few Dollars More, though, having only watched them like once, I would say that's probably the pick of the three from my opinion, but they're all great, like I said. I then rewatched one of the best comedies of the past 10 or 12 years, Game Night. It's absolutely, it rips. Have you seen Game Night before?
I actually haven't yet.
Yeah, but when you're watching a new comedy, just watch Game Night. That's all I'll say to you. Like, when you're in the mood for a comedy next, I would highly recommend Game Night. I think this is the third time I've seen it, but like even more so than the other two times. It just rips. Oh, it's so great. It's such a well thought out and plotted movie, and yeah, I love it so much. Jesse Plemons, the entire cast is great. I hate to single anyone out, but because he's not known for comedy, Jesse Plemons, he is.
Yeah, I've seen the Frito-Lay.
The Frito-Lay scene is amazing, but just every scene, every line delivery is just perfect. It's perfection. He's completely deadpan. Like, he does not get more deadpan than Jesse Plemons in this movie. Absolutely brilliant. I hope he does more comedy, because the man has a gift for it. I then watched I Am Alfred Hitchcock, obviously inspired by this month. It's only 80 minutes long. It came out a few years ago, and it brings in a lot of archival footage and interviews and audio interviews from like some of his collaborators, like Jimmy Stewart. It has Steven Spielberg is interviewed. I think it's definitely a like broad strokes overview of his career, because the man did over 50 movies. Like 80 minutes is not nearly enough to obviously justify his whole movies or his whole filmography. Mainly focuses on Psycho, and then followed by Vertigo, which obviously we'll go on to next week. There's definitely some nuggets that I didn't know that are interesting, but I think it's more so if you're just getting into Hitchcock, well, I guess you'd want to watch the movies because they do talk about spoilers, obviously. But I think it's more of a broad strokes. There's not too much that you wouldn't know, but it's still worth a watch, I'd say. And finally,
before you move on, Shane, I have to ask, can you give me, and I'll answer it too, can you give me 3 Hitchcock films you haven't seen that you want to see the most?
That's interesting. Jamaica Inn.
Oh, that's good fun. I really enjoy that.
Yeah. The Pleasure Gardens. And probably...
I think I've seen that too.
Probably Family Plot, just because it's his last movie. I know it's not well reviewed. To be honest, I think I've seen like... Plot. We've obviously seen... It's good. We've seen every 40s Hitchcock movie.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've seen every 50s Hitchcock movie. I think I've seen most of his 30s stuff. I think I've seen pretty much every Hitchcock movie from like the mid-30s to the mid-60s, I think. So it's definitely like... It's more so his silent films and then his very early talkies stuff. Apart from Blackmail, I think that's like... They're a big blind spot for me, so I need to... And The Lodger, they're a big blind spot for me, so I need to kind of... Yeah, that's the main era that I think that I need to kind of still watch from Hitchcock.
Yeah, I have seen The Pleasure Garden, actually. It does have like a really good scene with a ghost in it. Yeah, I think I have a couple of... For someone... I think I've seen more Hitchcock films than you, but I think I've seen some more vague ones, because I have some like big blind spots when it comes to Hitchcock. I still haven't seen The Lady Vanishes. I know that's insane.
That's great.
there was kind of a period where I was like, I'll just leave The Lady Vanishes until we're covering it on the podcast. But I'm getting to a point now where I'm like, I'm just going to have to watch it because like I'm running out of Hitchcock films. So yeah, The Lady Vanishes is up there for me. I suppose I haven't seen Topaz. Again, I know it's not particularly well reviewed, but after I watched Topaz, I've basically seen every Hitchcock film from the 40s onwards. So I may as well just watch it because then it's 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s I've got under me belt. And then actually Secret Agent is one I really want to watch that I haven't seen yet. I really want to watch Secret Agent.
Yeah, actually that's one.
Which I think has absolutely no relation to the film that came out last year, but it also does have Peter Lorre in it, so come on. So yeah, I'll say Secret Agent, Lady Vanishes, and Topaz would be my three.
Nice. And then last but not least, James McAvoy's directorial debut, California Scheming. It's kind of definitely like inspired by a true story of these two young Scottish rappers from Dundee who are kind of seen it as a bit of a laughing stock because of their accents and where they're from and the fact they're from a working class background. They decide to reinvent themselves as American rappers, pretend that they're from America and from California. And wouldn't you know it, all of a sudden they start to get a lot more notoriety, popularity, and they get a record contract. And it's kind of the rise and fall of this real life rap duo. Interesting directorial debut. I think it's certain scenes he kind of tries to bite off more than he can chew, but that's not uncommon for a first time director. And look, I appreciate the ambition, I guess. Yeah, it's decent. I definitely would say it's not amazing, but it's a decent first effort, and yeah, I enjoyed it. So yeah, that was the Golden Hour Film Podcast episode covering The Wrong Man from Alfred Hitchcock. Obviously, we've got two more Hitchcock 50s movies to finish in this arc, like I said, and next week that'll be Vertigo, starring Jimmy Stewart and Kim Novak. Obviously one of the very big Hitchcock movies. So I think we'll leave it there for this week. Thanks for watching / listening, everyone. I've been Shane Mulvaney.
I've been Harry Bailey.
And tune in next week for Vertigo. Goodbye.